Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blue Thunder Pod. I'm your host, Billy Sullivan. Dave, unfortunately, is on hiatus right now. I'm very sorry, Mom. Um, and to that point, uh, we are going to be making some pretty drastic changes to the Blue Thunder Pod. So, initially, when I set out to make a podcast, the idea was to uh, have a couple of interesting, funny, but very different perspectives on professional wrestling in North America today. Uh, Me as the sicko maniac, I watch every wrestling show. I love the graps kind of bullshit. And Dave, and then potentially others, as kind of a foil to that or a different perspective. Dave being a lifelong pro wrestling fan, but much more a WWE guy, WWE fan than New Japan or eventually AEW. And the idea behind the podcast was to just kind of have 5 or 6 bullet points from the week in wrestling, the prior week in wrestling, that we could talk about and kind of have fun with, go back and forth on, and see what our differing opinions and where we converged. Um, Mostly try to be a little bit funny. But somewhere along the way, we managed to bloat our show to the point where we were breaking down with dozens of pages of notes, um, the like tiniest minutia of every minute of every wrestling show that aired. It was basically 10 hours of pro wrestling TV that we would cover like we were a sideline reporter or something. Um, so first things first, Dave is he's got to take care of some business, so he is going to take a hiatus. So it's going to be just me for right now. Hopefully within the next week or two, I'm going to start rotating in some guest hosts, some people that have even different perspectives than Dave or I. Uh, People that are maybe lapsed wrestling fans or not fans at all, and I'll have them watch the shows for the week, and then we can talk about it. I think that could be pretty fun too. Um, and when it's me solo, I'll be doing like a breakdown of what I find interesting from Raw and Dynamite for that week. There'll be shorter shows. We're gonna only do one show a week. Um, if and when Dave gets his business done and is able to return, um, it's still going to be just one show a week, hopefully 2 hours. When I do them solo, it'll be shorter than that because it's hard to talk for 2 hours by yourself without feeling like a complete maniac. Um, Full disclosure, I recorded this entire podcast, exported it, and then realized that the audio was completely corrupted. First time it's ever happened. So this may be even more abbreviated than was prior, as I re-record right now in the wee hours of the morning. Um, so what's going on in wrestling today? Um, that's what I'm going to break down. The interesting stuff, at least, today, and then we'll go from there. Hopefully by next week we'll have some special guests in. At the latest 2 weeks from now. But for now, you got me and my beautiful smiling face and wonderful sense of humor and charm and charisma. Riz, as the kids like to say. Uh, so, it's not that big a step down, to be honest. Um, of course, I'm going to kick it off with Dynamite today because, I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Dynamite is it's the show for adults. And I am a almost 45-year-old man. Dynamite is a show that is for grown-ups. Um, Raw WWE is a show geared towards children and primarily children, and also grown men with light effects under their sports cars, which unfortunately is a much larger swath of humanity in America than one would like to believe, as evidenced by the television and attendance numbers that the Fed does. But today we're going to kick it off with Dynamite, which just so happened to be my very favorite Dynamite of 2024. I don't think that it's any small coincidence that Chris Jericho being on the show for 22 seconds total, coinciding with the episode being my favorite of the year. Yeah, I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it's very likely a major contributing factor, because Dynamite has been good for many weeks in a row. With one big drawback most of the time. There's usually one terrible segment, and about 80% of the time it's the Jericho segment for the last several months. So it was nice to have a reprieve from him, and also very nice to have my scumbag and yours, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, the best wrestler in the world, back and wrestling like a motherfucker to kick the show off. Commercial free against Roosh. Could not have picked a better opponent for a guy that is trying to rid himself of a stigma of goofy babyface that haunted him for the last month or so of his title run. People seem to have liked to change the narrative into that MJF's in the entirety of his title run was somehow a failure, when in actuality it was a roaring success for the vast majority of it, and then it fell apart a little bit at the end when Adam Cole shattered his ankle, and MJF himself started suffering from myriad injuries and mishaps. But all told, I honestly believe that Max's run as AEW World Heavyweight Champion was the greatest AEW World Heavyweight Championship run. I think Orange Cassidy's international title run was probably the best title run in AEW history, but Max's was pretty, I would say, conclusively the best world title run that anybody's had in that company. Despite the bullshit narrative by the bad faithers that are out there. Anyway, the show kicked off with Maxwell Jake, I call him Max because we're buddies, MJF against Roosh in a match that was solely designed to shed that goofball babyface image that plagued Maxwell for that, like I said, the very tail end of that last run about 6 months ago. I continue to love the black and white iteration of the Burberry scarf aesthetic that he's got rocking, along with the leather jacket kind of greaser Triple H homage look. I did want to mention before, right before the match on Wednesday, MJF back on Twitter, of course, because he's back in wrestling now, and he's just a wonderful Twitter participant. He tweeted right before his match with Roosh, a dangerous, self-serving piece of trash. They couldn't care less if his opponent comes out okay after the bell is rung. He's in it for the money, the fame, and the glory. If his opponent is left in the dust, it ain't his problem. And Roosh is in the match too. See you at 8. I love Max. He's just the best. It's insane that this guy was out for half a year. His first match back is an absolute banger that goes 17 minutes. Brutal, striking, high impact moves. We found out that Max does, in fact, listen to the pod and took my advice and decided to go with the Brain Buster for his new finisher, which is a wonderful choice of Maxwell's. His other, the Heat Seeker and Salt of the Earth are both kind of heel moves, and he needed a high impact, cool looking thing. And that Brain Buster he hit Cole with a couple weeks ago was absolutely brutal, and that's what he finished this match off with today, or on Wednesday, I should say. Max got me to actually bite on a thing he's been fucking doing since day one in AEW. His eye poke spot. He started engaging in a chop battle with Roosh because Roosh is like, Mr. Super Tough Guy, and it's a very big lucha thing to do the chop battle. So Roosh is requesting, Max hit him in the chest. MJF does. Roosh does not respond at all. He didn't even flinch. He says, "Come on, bring it some more." So MJF licks his palm, looks to the crowd, asks them to, come on, fire it up, guys. And goes to do the chop and back to the crowd again. Come on, guys, no, do better than that. I want you louder. He does this 3 times before the crowd is in an absolute frenzy. At which time Max thumbs Roosh in the eye and does his hands up in the air celebration that he's been doing 4 or 5 years that I absolutely did not see coming because of the added little nuance of the crowd work he did, because he goddamn rules. Max has added some moves to his arsenal as well. I was very happy to see that since Andrade decided he didn't want to use it anymore, Maxwell has adopted that hammerlock DDT that fucking looks like it's going to kill somebody. So that was pretty dope. And like I said, the Brain Buster, not the Brain Buster, just the Brain Buster as a finish. Roosh in this match kept doing a nut tap, not like a low blow as much as like a locker room. If you ever played sports, and your buddies would walk by and just kind of tap you on the nuts as a joke. Roosh did that 4 or 5 times in this match, which was very amusing to me. This match was so brutal, and MJF looked like such a badass. I was reminded of, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Knocked Up. There's a scene where they're all sitting around, all the buddies are sitting around, and I believe it's Jay Baruchel's talking about how much he loves the movie Munich, because as opposed to conventional Hollywood movies where Jewish men are portrayed as nebbish and weak, Munich makes the Jews look like a bunch of fucking badasses. I would contend that Munich has been since surpassed by Inglourious Bastards, but for our purposes today, in Knocked Up, after Jay Baruchel's talking about that, they are all the rest of the crew are just repeating, fucking Munich. Well, during this match, I was repeating fucking Munich over and over again because of Max's very strident and outward love of his Jewish heritage, and that he is just a bad motherfucker right now. So fucking Munich, MJF. After the match, Brainbuster victory for Maxwell, we found out that Tony Khan has decided that he's going to return to his roots of 2019 through 2022 of booking his shows specifically for me personally. Not like my group of friends, not like the quadrant that I fall into, not my demo, me, very specifically me, because MJF is getting fucking Hechicero at Forbidden Door. And as we all know, I am the one and only tried and true, heavily announced Hechicero head numero uno. So I am super stoked to see what Max is going to do in the ring with a guy like that. Somebody who wrestles like I've never seen anybody wrestle before. The next thing I wanted to talk about was a callback to something that happened last week on Dynamite that was absolutely wonderful, and I think was just improved upon this week, as a matter of fact. So the 8-man tag that was my favorite match of the week last week, it was incredible. They're running it back with a couple of replacements. It's got Dante Martin in there on the good guy side, and on the heels, Zach fucking Sabre Jr., the best technical wrestler maybe I've ever seen. Now maybe he's the best technical wrestler I've ever seen. So an upgrade over a pretty much 5-star match already. So we got a callback to the promo that Mark Briscoe cut, because we went backstage with the 4 good guys: Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe, Dante Martin, and Orange Cassidy. Renee initially tries to talk to OC, but Orange Cassidy dismisses her forthwith and basically says, Renee, come on. Like we know what's coming here. Kyle O'Reilly at this point has a look of pure delight on his face, at which point my guy, Mark Briscoe, steps to the fore and says as follows: Renee, if I please. Now, it was only 1 week ago this evening that proclaimed that today is today, and we're not going to get where we're going by looking in the rearview mirror. And then I proceeded to get pinned and lose the match for my team. My bad, boys. It will not happen again. But I ain't focused on that, because the word of the day today is vengeance. The word of the day today is redemption. That's right. There's 2 words of the day today. And we back, baby. The conglomeration is here. And now we got Mr. Hey, you get off of my cloud, Dante Martin, my fellow participant in the TNT title ladder match at Forbidden Door. But tonight, at which point Jack Perry walks through the frame, like in front of the good guys. And Mark Briscoe stares at him as if Jack Perry has whipped his cock out and done the helicopter dance at a funeral. As Perry walks off out of frame, Briscoe says, "Get your ass out of here, Jack Perry. We ain't worried about yesterday. We ain't worried about tomorrow. Tonight is an 8-man all-star tag team action, and it's in Fairfax, Virginia. Let's go, baby. Let's go." And storms off the set. Kyle O'Reilly, eyes just wide agape, exclaims, "I will follow that man everywhere." At which point Orange Cassidy gives Renee a friendship bracelet. I hope that Mark Briscoe gets all the things, all the belts, all the championships, but I also want him and Kyle O'Reilly to never split, because they are magic together. The next item I want to talk about from Dynamite was the face-to-face promo battle between Will Bloody Ospreay, bruv, and the World Heavyweight Champion, Swerve Strickland. Started off the promo battle kind of like what you'd expect from what we've seen from these two thus far. Swerve saying that Ospreay's not ready because he hasn't been in a main event yet. Ospreay saying Swerve's not ready because this is his first title defense in the main event. Ospreay saying that while you were on hit row, bruv, I had a hit list, and he lists off all the big names that he has vanquished. Swerve gets into how he doesn't believe that the Billy Goat is capable of the kind of sacrifice at this point in his life that you need to be ready to do to reach the highest level in AEW. He says this business will kill you. It'll tear you apart. I have no friends. I've got no. Everyone I vanquished, they're dead. They're corpses to me. Look what this business has done to me. He takes his sunglasses off and shows Ospreay his emo eyes that are indicative of the drain that this grind has put on Swerve. Ospreay kind of gets starts to get the last word, doing his own another level. Again, this was like flawless. I'm not doing it verbatim, but these guys were both just on point here. At which point Swerve says, I know you will. I know that you're not willing to make the sacrifices that are necessary. You're not willing to sacrifice your friends, your lifestyle. You're not willing to sacrifice your family, your wife and son. At which point Ospreay grabs the mic and basically says, keep my son's name out of your mouth. Don't make this shit personal. Gets what we thought was the last word. His music plays, Ospreay's, and as he's leaving the ring, Swerve grabs the mic again and says, hey, cut that music off. Shut that shit off. Hey, Will, I got a question for you. What if I want to make this personal? I'll follow that up with everything to do with this AEW World Championship to me is always personal. This is personal. It's all I care about. So what if I want to make it personal? And Ospreay doesn't really have an answer for him. And Swerve then says, so when you get home, send my regards to Al and Harry again. Is Ospreay's wife and son. As Ospreay comes flying back into the ring, they are now forehead to forehead, spitting fire into each other's faces. This program is now heated up like a motherfucker. It's going to be awesome. I do kind of think this may have showed us, they may have showed their hand a little bit that Swerve is going to come away the victor. But I don't care because I don't want Ospreay to be the champion yet. At this point, we got that redo of the best match of last week, the 8-man. So Zack Sabre Jr., Dante Martin was incredible in this match, but Zack Sabre Jr., I know that when there's a bunch of counters and a series of difficult moves, which is basically all Zack Sabre Jr. does, the wrestlers will kind of talk it out and then do hand signals and stuff to let each other know what's coming. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out how the fuck Zack Sabre could possibly do that with any of his opponents because his counters and sequences are all 12 to 15 moves long. And I don't think anybody else could remember that. I think that's why it looks like he's surprising his opponents so much when he ties them in knots and gets them in crazy pinning combinations because I think he is actually surprising them. I'm so happy that he's around. I love Forbidden Door season. If only for Zack Sabre Jr. I know that he wants to be the next big Gaijin, the next Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, Stan Hansen over in New Japan, but I don't care. I want him in North America wrestling because he is wonderful. He talks like a Guy Ritchie character, and he's the best technical wrestler that I've ever seen in my goddamn life. Of course, this match kicked all former of ass. Elevated also by both the gentlemen that were not in the match last week, and Dante and ZSJ, as the Brits like to say. I actually think that Zack Sabre is right up there with my tippy top, like top 5 maybe favorite wrestlers to watch on Earth right now. His match with Danielson earlier this year was fucking insane. Go check it out if you have not. And Dante looked great too, which is another reason why I don't want Ricochet signing with AEW, because I think he gets lost in the shuffle. Because there's guys like Dante Martin that can do everything that Ricochet can do. He's 5 inches taller and he can cut a promo. So I'm not sure Ricochet can do those things. I think NJPW is the best spot for him. The Young Bucks against the Acclaimed is next in a title eliminator match. The Bucks proving once and for all that wrestling gear is the most important thing to a pro wrestler, because they were dressed in actual colorful Young Bucks gear. They had the Dapper Yapper actually announce them as wearing comfortable, colorful clothing to go along with their Reebok pumps. And that they were absolutely wearing. And this was their best match of the year. I don't know if it's because of the gear, but it certainly didn't hurt. The Acclaimed I love as a tag team, and that's what we had here. Anthony Bowens is like the most easy to get behind babyface, and easiest to feel empathy for. He's got a leg all taped up from an injury. The Bucks just absolutely hone in on that for the majority of this match. Caster is like on the outside for most of the match, and Bowens is just valiantly trying to fight back. And it really seemed like the Bucks were going to do their thing and get the win, but in the end, the Acclaimed got the victory, so they're going to get a title shot. And I'm very happy about that, because I fucking like the Acclaimed when they're a tag team. It was a little disconcerting that Billy Gunn had to get his big fat head in the ring the moment that the bell rang, announcing the Acclaimed as victors. But yeah, I can deal with him as a manager or whatever. Stay the fuck out of the matches. Oh, before the match started, actually, Caster was coming down to do his rap, and his mic cut out, and they cut to the back, and Okada was on the board saying, "Oh no, I made a mistake. So sorry, bitches." He just, bitches is his line, and I am here for it. Everybody loves the Acclaimed again. They were super over here, too. All you had to do was make them a tag team, and what do you know? Super, super over. The crowd was hot as fuck for this whole show, by the way. Whoever came up with the Joe, Hook, Shibata trio, and the little sketches they do before every interaction that they have, needs a raise, because it's absolutely brilliant. Not pairing, I guess. A brilliant conglomeration, as Briscoe would say, of 3 guys that just have incredible chemistry together. This time, the chit-chat that Joe and Hook were having was, Joe was telling Hook, you New Yorkers always brag about the food around your neighborhood. You're so friggin' stupid. You should tell everybody that there's no good hot dog stands, there's no good pizza, because that's why your damn rent is so high. You wouldn't have to pay so high rent if you didn't spread around all that word about all the food that's so amazing. Because don't nobody want to pay that high rent if their apartment is above the worst chopped cheese in the 5 boroughs, which made me giggle. The contract signing for the women's world title went very well. Toni Storm, I will say, was a little less funny than usual. Her timing was a little bit off, but that's okay, because she is a home run almost every single week, and Mina Shirakawa made up for it. She cut a scathing promo in all English, a little bit, slow and at cadence, because it's not her first language, and I want to thank everybody in attendance for not doing a motherfucking what chant, just because she was speaking in cadence. That would have really taken away from it. The segment ended with Saraya and the Phenom, Harley Cameron, coming down to fuck shit up. to be joined by the new member of their stable. I don't know if they have a name or not, if they're still the Outcasts, Anna Jay. And this is why we know that AEW is back doing things the way that they should be. Because when they are, they do shit like plant the seed 5 weeks ago that Anna Jay may wind up a cohort of Harley Cameron and Saraya, which they did. They very much did. And then let just enough time pass that you kind of forget about it. And then when she pops back up, you go, oh shit, I forgot about that. But yeah, this makes sense. I love to see Anna Jay always. As Dave says, she does look like she would be very good with small children. But she's also a badass wrestler. We got Statlander versus Nyla Rose in a hoss fight. Actually, it's the first match of the Owen Hart Memorial Tournament. We're getting a few of these on TV, and there's actually going to be matches at Forbidden Door as well. But this was the first one. It was a hoss fight. Not Statlander's best. She's incapable of a bad match, but Nyla Rose does seem to be the person that she has the least chemistry with. And it was just a straight hoss fight, so you didn't really need all that much. The big takeaway was the Statlander showed she could do all of her power moves on Nyla Rose, insinuating that, yes, then I can do these moves on Willow Nightingale, which is going to be her next opponent in the tournament, because she got the win here. Next was the 22-second Jericho segment that I was able to fast forward, and it did not bring down my enjoyment whatsoever of this show. Danny Garcia got another squash against the Jabroni. It's 3 shows in a row. So they're doing something with him. He, again, the most impressive thing was that fucking finisher that he invented. I don't know how nobody had thought of that, doing that before, the choke to near unconsciousness into DDT kind of thing, but it just looks like he's trying to murder the guy that he's fighting. But yeah, this was a repeat of the last 2 shows, Collision and Dynamite. They have him doing a Goldberg thing right now, just pasting jobbers. After his match, though, the former Mogul Embassy, whose name I do not remember, the Brian Cage people, do a run-in and attack Danny Garcia. MJF, Big Hero, actually comes down to try to make the save, but the numbers game is still not in their favor. And eventually Will Ospreay comes out, and the 2 of them kind of back-to-back chase the baddies away. And then they face off, and the building fucking exploded. People went absolutely goddamn nuts for this teased match, possibly for Wembley, of MJF versus Ospreay. Again, when AEW is going their best, they do stuff like this. They do insinuate maybe 3 different matches for a guy like MJF, which is exactly what they've done in the last 2 weeks. And you know that a couple are red herrings, but they'll also come to fruition down the line. So we don't know what's coming up next, but we have like 3 things to look forward to, in that they insinuated Swerve with MJF. They now have insinuated Ospreay, and Okada. Okada was the 3rd that they made a little passing insinuation that MJF may face off against. But he's got to keep his head on straight and stay focused, because you can't sleep on motherfucking Hechicero, baby. Power's back. Ospreay and Brian Cage, we get that next week. I can't fucking wait for that, because that's going to be a very interesting match, with Cage being a big giant monster motherfucker and Ospreay being Ospreay. That could be real interesting. The main event of the evening for Dynamite was Pac and Claudio Castagnoli in an Owen Cup tournament match. Pac wins a good one. Not a 5-star match, but it's these 2, so good match, very good match. And the show, top to bottom, was just very fucking good. Got me pretty fired up for Forbidden Door, despite the fact that I will say Forbidden Door feels like the lesser pay-per-view, but that's a good thing, because the reason it feels like the lesser pay-per-view is because they're actually treating Wembley like WrestleMania this year. They're treating Wembley like the big deal that it is. So that's why Forbidden Door maybe suffering a little bit. I mean, the card is going to be fucking incredible, and the show will be amazing. Bunch of interesting stuff happening, but as opposed to years past when we had stuff like Ospreay versus Kenny Omega, like all of that stuff is happening at Wembley this year, and as it should. It's their biggest show of the year. We also found out that AEW for Dynamite and Collision will be traveling to Cardiff, Wales, which also is a fantastic idea, because the audacity of the Foreign Whites, they always are awesome, and great crowds make for great shows. I can't wait to watch that. Next up, we got Raw. If I can locate my notes for it. Not quite the same level of quality as Dynamite this week, but still a pretty fun show. Kicked it off with a surprise. Seth Rollins coming out with a hat that makes him look like the leader guy from Children of the Corn. I will say, after he lost the hat, his outfit was actually pretty fucking cool. It was not like a clown shoes nonsense. He looked pretty sharp. Also, he's no longer Seth freaking Rollins. He's just Seth Rollins. Also, his Titantron has been scaled significantly back. His promos, which fucking still suck because he sucks at promos, always will, but they're not ridiculous and silly. He cut a pretty serious sounding promo, so it made him more interesting, because change is always interesting. I wish he would fucking shoot a text over to his buddy Jon Moxley to tell him the same thing, because Seth seems to understand that in wrestling you must evolve every year and a half, 2 years, or you become stale. And he very much was. I think that it's not a huge change here, but it's enough that it gives me a little bit of hope for Seth. We got a recap of what happened at Clash at the Castle, and if you guys hadn't seen, we didn't do a recap of that because of the change in the show. But they recapped the CM Punk costing Drew McIntyre the title in Scotland, in what I thought was an absolutely terrible decision, an awful booking idea, because I think they want CM Punk to still be a babyface, and as is evidenced later in this show, that's not really what's happening here. Punk was a total heel too. Not just situational Scotland heel. He did a very heely thing. Drew had the match won and the title won fair and square, and Punk inserted himself in the match and cost Drew in his home country, in his hometown, I believe. And I'm surprised they made it out of that country safely, to be honest. But there's some evidence from later on in this program that maybe he's not the program's not going to go in the direction that they had anticipated, and may have to pivot a little bit. Crappy. When Seth was in the ring, Damian Priest comes out. I can't tell if he's a good guy or a bad guy at this point. He's oscillating more than Big Show ever did. I don't care. He's boring either way. He did have a good match at Clash. I'll give him that. But, he was in there with Drew, and he's right back to being boring as fuck immediately. Chad Gable and his big mouth in front of Adam Pearce got him a match with Braun Strowman, which he got whooped in. There was a cool spot, though, where Gable kind of got put up in a tree of woe, but he was hanging from the inside of the ring to the outside. So upside down to the outside, and while he's upside down, he's facing Otis and berating him for being an idiot. And and not helping the way that he should, and yada yada. It's pretty funny little spot. I really, really think they missed the boat on the Otis babyface turn. There was an emotional peak 2 weeks ago where they could have done it, would have blown the goddamn roof off the place, and they decided not to. I think Triple H, his biggest flaw is that he stretches this shit out just too long. Everything. His matches, his stories, everything. His angles, it all goes a little bit too long and it misses the peak. Because here, Otis kind of did a face turn, I guess. He ended up pushing Gable down in the corner, but didn't attack him further. He got a pretty, like a little pop, but nowhere near what he would have gotten a couple weeks ago if he would have slugged Gable when he should have. But now, after weeks of looking stupid and then like kind of softly rebelling against Gable, it's not going to be the turn for Otis that he deserves from all the work that he put into this program. He should get a good babyface run out of this, and he's just not gonna, I don't think. And they kind of solidified that this is it for them too, which I was kind of hoping it wasn't, because it was really anticlimactic. When backstage, Gable approaches the three students of his, now former, and Otis reiterates that we're done with you, and they all walk off in a very anticlimactic finish to what was a really cool story. I do think it's going to bring the Gable and Creed brothers thing together, which that's great. I mean, I love all those guys. I'm sure they'll be great together. But it seems like kind of a bummer that they wasted that Otis story, because that dude is an empathy machine. At this point, we find out that Dirty Dom can't find his cow vest. I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, but I found out later. Finn Balor, mentions that, oh no, the key card, I didn't have it. It wound up in the trash. I don't believe him. It is revealed that Liv Morgan, of course, has Dom's cow vest, and she is wearing it. I noted at this point that in a career of ups and downs on commentary for Pat McAfee, this was a truly dog shit affair. He decided to go with the maximum level of annoying, ridiculous, over-the-top Pittsburgh accent and bullshit talk. I wanted to kill the man while watching this show. I apologize to all our Pittsburgh listeners. I will say, though, San Diego has very recently passed you on the list of cities outside of our home area that listen to the Blue Thunder Pod. So, Terrible Towel waivers, Pittsburgh, you need to get back on the horse and tell your friends, because you don't want to lose that number one spot for very long. Especially when you have somebody like Pat McAfee representing you as a people. Sheamus seems to be back wearing his Irish pub gear instead of the lobster head stuff, which I'm glad, honestly, that I don't like the old Sheamus look. I tried to feel nostalgia for it, but it's stupid. He looks better with the newsboy cap and, cut off gloves and stuff. Looking like Shayna and Zoe are going to get a title shot against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, which to me is not very interesting, because a week ago, Shayna and Zoe, without cheating or anything, totally fucking demolished these two. Like, just murdered them in 2 minutes. So it wouldn't make any sense for a week later for the champs to be able to hold their own with these two, who just absolutely decimated them and made them look like they were on several levels below where Shayna and Zoe are. So I don't know what's up with that. Maybe a schmozzy thing. I don't know. I'm thinking they just put the titles on the two Scots because they knew they were going to fuck Drew over, and they wanted to give Scotland at least one little treat. That was really some bullshit booking, man. Really hated it. I will say, I did mention last week, I like Carlito's work with the Judgment Day sketch stuff. But boy, does he fucking suck in the ring. He always was kind of bad, and now he's just so super slow. And poor Dragon Lee got stuck in a match with Carlito that slowed Dragon Lee down by about 800%. Carlito also went over Dragon Lee. So good thing that 55-year-old ass Carlito is getting wins over a guy that seemed like a pretty exciting signing prospect a couple of months back, and now is very clearly being relegated to the Lucha Job Squad that every luchador, every Mexican wrestler in WWE outside of Damian Priest, Latino outside of Damian Priest, gets relegated to eventually. So great. That's awesome for Dragon Lee. I look forward to not getting to see any good matches from him, one of my favorite wrestlers, for whatever the duration of his contract with the Fed is. At this point, Drew comes out justifiably very pissed off, believably angry. His acting is wonderful here. As I predicted, the first time Drew mentions CM Punk, he cuts a very short promo here. First time he mentions Punk, there's like a muted cheer response, which weird. By comparison to what CM Punk has been receiving from the crowds recently, and a very, very weak CM Punk chant, like Collision 3 weeks after Punk got fired week. Like, it was very, very quiet and petered out after 3 CM Punks. Now, this is on the heels of every other time Punk has been out there for WWE, deafening, just boisterous CM Punk chants. I think he's a heel. I think he's a heel now. I hope he is, because for me personally, I want to see Punk as a heel, because he's a fucking great heel. I think he's like a top 3 heel of all time. But people love to cheer for Cult of Personality and CM Punk. So I think the company wanted to keep him babyface and thought maybe they could get away with situational. I don't think that's what's happening here. And there's evidence on the show that they may have to pivot. But you know what? Heel Punk versus babyface Drew would fucking kick ass too. Drew is visibly shaken. And at the end of his promo, he says, you know what? I can't deal with this bullshit anymore. I quit. And he walks out. I'm with him. He was totally screwed in his home country. I would quit too. I mean, it's kayfabe, obviously. He just signed a long-term deal that was spoiled by The Rock on his Instagram page. Speaking of, if you want to get a hold of us at Blue Thunder Pod, or check out some videos and fun stuff, our socials are TikTok, Blue Thunder Pod, Instagram, Blue Thunder Pod, Twitter /X, Blue Thunder Pod, YouTube, the Blue Thunder Pod, and all of the above, bluethunderpod.com. We had a Braun Breaker Sheamus Haas match, which was a rare off night for Braun. It was, I think, very clearly his weakest match since he's been on the main roster. Sheamus worked a pretty solid match, but they used to just not have great chemistry. They did beat the crap out of each other, but there was a lot of wonky stuff happening. It's definitely Braun's weakest match, and it had a total schmozzy finish because Ludwig Kaiser had something to say about it. He interfered and ended up eating a pretty nasty spear, which is the best thing about the Braun match, probably. Liv Morgan is now shown in the hallway, like back against the wall with Dom in front of her, wearing the vest, very seductively saying, well, if you want your vest back, Dom, you're going to have to take it off yourself. Here, I'll help. And she starts to unzip it. And Dom is very flustered. My cheeks were turning red as I watched it because, again, Liv is just amazing at this seductress character that she's been playing. Absolutely crushing it. Dom does proceed to take the vest off. And just as he does, of course, Damian Priest walks up. So who knows what's going to come of that. I also would like to point out that, again, like last week, I watched this show at 2 times speed, and I would recommend to every pro wrestling fan and everyone who likes fun things out there to please do yourself a favor and watch a Jey Uso promo in 2 times speed. It is an absolute joy and delightful as a motherfucker. His cadence and the way he talks, he's a great promo at 2 times speed. For whatever reason, is just goddamn hilarious and wonderful, and I love it. It's something I'm looking forward to on a weekly basis now. Also, Jey Uso mentions that he wants the Yeet case, which I assume is the Money in the Bank briefcase. And I'm sure that pay-per-view will be pretty good. It usually is. The most important thing of this night, though, by far, was what closed it out. Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six made their debut, and it was worth the wait. It was a good one. Lots of callbacks to Bray's last return, which fucking kicked ass too. The lights all go off, obviously. They do the door thing that Bray did. This time the door pops open, though, and the camera does kind of a tracking shot, like a oneer, in through the door, through to the back stage area, which is now laid out like a haunted house, basically. Very creepy. First person they come up on is like a super creepy looking lady with like nasty bloody teeth and old lady mask. Good looking one, though, like ratty clothes. That was Nikki Cross, I believe. The camera continues to follow back. There's a dude with a creepy bunny mask on who is very clearly Eric Redbeard. He's also got the big hammer. It says help on it. Again, his bunny mask, I'm Rambling Rabbit, I assume, looks great. All the costumes look great here. The lights, the electricity, everything in the backstage is going fucking nuts. There's wrestlers just laid out everywhere, like bleeding. There's one guy that looks like he was took a headshot from like a 44 Magnum through the forehead. There's a big splotch of blood on the wall behind his head. And camera pans up to a dude sitting crisscross applesauce with like a plague doctor mask and dreads. Another cool looking costume. I think this is the only person I don't really like in the Wyatt Six, but who knows? Maybe he'll turn around here. Loomis, I forget his first name. He was the guy that was trying to rape Miz for like 8 months. Camera finally pans to, I shouldn't say finally, then to a guy with like an old school gas mask that's also in the shape of a pig's head that I think is Gacy. He's good too and will be very good in the role. They then pan down to Chad Gable, who is bleeding from the temple and completely unconscious, having evidently been assaulted by the Wyatt Six. Finally, Uncle Howdy, looking incredibly dope with a fucking way better mask than previous, materializes. He really moves like his brother, which made me kind of sad, nostalgic, and also kind of happy. I believe in this program and this guy. I loved the upgrade on the Uncle Howdy mask. They all then walk out through the door onto the stage where a Bray Wyatt lantern sits. Uncle Howdy grabs it, and they all do their heel pose together, heel faction pose together. Uncle Howdy says, "We're here," and then blows the lantern out to end the show. Wonderful way to end the program. Incredible debut for these guys. They keep saying it was Bray's ultimate vision. I can believe it. It is very much an aesthetic that fits what I know Bray Wyatt to enjoy to this point in his career, or to the point in his career where he unfortunately passed so early. And I think it's going to kind of fucking rule, to be honest. Yeah, I really wish they hadn't shit the bed on the Otis thing, but it was a nice and who knows what's going on with the CM Punk thing. But a great way to close the show out. And I like, instead of supernatural, they're going for more the Rob Zombie horror movie psychos, like aesthetic. I dig the psycho aesthetic. I dig the Bray's old like cult leader aesthetic. I do not like spooky ghosts or big, tall, crappy wrestlers shooting lightning out of their fists. So this was just actually pretty frightening, and a great payoff. So it was a pretty good week in wrestling, to be honest. We got, I think, Money in the Bank coming up for the Fed. And even before that, Forbidden Door, which looks to be another AEW classic. Fucking banger. Please join us again next week. Hopefully I'll be back with a special guest partner while Dave is hiatusing, getting his business done. If not, you got me again, so you can't really complain, can you? But I do believe by next week I'll have my first interesting co-host, guest co-host, sitting across the table from me. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this and enjoy the idea of the new and I believe improved Blue Thunder Pod. Please join me again next week. And as always, guys, thank you for joining us. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. I know I'm not Dave. I'm sorry, but bye.